Jerson Robia in Lockheizottis P4. Best lap is a 141.346. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia is 10th. Santiago Bedoya is 10th. Best lap is a 147.904. The qualification session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. The wind speed is 1 km/h from the west-southwest. Announcer bot is active. Christian Gomez from Colombia is P1. The qualification session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. Christian Gomez from Colombia is first. The qualifying session is now in overtime. The race session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. Christian Gomez is P1. Juan Barbosa is second on mediums. Gerson Robia from Colombia is P3 on supers. Esteban Gomez from Colombia is P4 on softs. Camilo Gomez from Colombia is P5 on softs. Jose Miguel Moncada from Colombia is 6th on softs. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia is P7 on supers. Santiago Bedoya from Colombia is P8 on softs. J.Enriquez from Colombia is 9th on mediums. Jean-Pierre Ferrand from Colombia is 10th on mediums. Juan Carlos Guarin from Colombia is 11th on mediums. Santiago Idarraga from Spain is 12th on softs. Christian Gomez from Colombia is P1 on supers. Juan Barbosa is P2. Gerson Robia is P3. Esteban Gomez is 4th. Camilo Gomez is 5th. Jose Miguel Moncada is P6. Ricardo Pineda is 7th. Santiago Bedoya is 8th. J.Enriquez is P9. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is P10. Juan Carlos Guarin is 11th. Diego Ortiz from Colombia is P12 on mediums. Race start. Christian Gomez is P1. Juan Barbosa is P2. Juan Carlos Guarin in Renault is 4th. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia in Repsol is P4 on softs. Diego Ortiz is P5. Jose Miguel Moncada in Camsa is 8th. Christian Gomez in La Caiza is P8. Juan Barbosa is P10, 0.4 behind Camilo Gomez. Santiago Idarraga exiting pits on softs. Camilo Gomez from Colombia in Elf is P10, 0.2 behind Juan Barbosa. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in Seat is P2, 0.4 behind Esteban Gomez. Christian Gomez is P6, 0.1 behind Diego Ortiz. Christian Gomez passed Diego Ortiz for 5th. Camilo Gomez in Camsa is P10, 0.2 behind Juan Barbosa. Jose Miguel Moncada on lap 2 is P7, 0.4 behind Diego Ortiz. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia in New Holland is 3rd. 0.5 behind Esteban Gomez. Jose Miguel Moncada is P7, 0.2 behind Diego Ortiz. Ricardo Pineda is 12, 0.5 behind Camilo Gomez. Juan Barbosa is P9, 0.3 behind Santiago Bedoya. Jose Miguel Moncada is P7, 0.2 behind Diego Ortiz. Juan Barbosa is 9. Best lap is a 1:46.667. 4.961 off the fastest lap. Juan Barbosa lost P9 to J.Enriquez. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Eurocar is 3rd, 0.4 behind Esteban Gomez. Juan Carlos Guerin in New Holland is 5th, 0.4 behind Christian Gomez. Jose Miguel Moncada is P7, 0.4 behind Diego Ortiz. Santiago Bedoya in Elf is P10, 0.3 behind Juan Barbosa. Ricardo Pineda in Renault is P12, 0.3 behind Camilo Gomez. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Camsa on lap 4 is P3, 0.3 behind Esteban Gomez. Camilo Gomez is P11, 0.5 behind Santiago Bedoya. Camilo Gomez was 3.2 faster last lap. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia in Eurocar is P3, 0.4 behind Esteban Gomez. Camilo Gomez is P11, 0.5 behind Santiago Bedoya. Ricardo Pineda in New Holland is P12 on Supers, 0.2 behind Camilo Gomez. Ricardo Pineda passed Camilo Gomez for 11th. Camilo Gomez in Elf is P12, 0.4 behind Ricardo Pineda. Ricardo Pineda is P11, 0.2 behind Santiago Bedoya. Santiago Bedoya in Seat is P11. Best lap is a 1:46.664. 5.787 off the fastest lap. Camilo Gomez in Camsa is P12, 0.5 behind Santiago Bedoya. Jose Miguel Moncada in Eurocar is P7, 0.5 behind Diego Ortiz. Camilo Gomez in New Holland on lap 5 is 12, 0.5 behind Santiago Bedoya. Jose Miguel Moncada in Seat is 7, 0.6 behind Diego Ortiz. Camilo Gomez is P12, 0.2 behind Santiago Bedoya. Camilo Gomez entering the pits is P13. Juan Carlos Guerin in La Caiza is 5th, 1.6 ahead of Diego Ortiz. Jose Miguel Moncada in Eurocar on lap 6 is P7, 0.4 behind Diego Ortiz. Camilo Gomez exiting pits on softs. Camilo Gomez is P13 battling Santiago Bedoya. Jose Miguel Moncada in Elf is 7th. Best lap is a 1:42.544. 2.482 off the fastest lap. J.Enriquez in Repsol is 8th, 0.3 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Jose Miguel Moncada is 7th, 0.4 ahead of J.Enriquez. J.Enriquez in Campsa is P8, 0.4 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia in La Caiza is P8, 0.1 behind J.Enriquez. Juan Carlos Guerin passed Jose Miguel Moncada for 6th. Cristian Gomez is P3, 0.2 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Cristian Gomez passed Juan Pablo Aristizabal for P2. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Renault is P3. Best lap is a 1:40.062. 0.360 off the fastest lap. J.Enriquez in Renault is P8, 1.1 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in Bank Sabadell is 3rd. J.Enriquez is 8th on mediums, 0.4 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Juan Carlos Guerin is P6. Best lap is a 1:42.543. 3.499 off the fastest lap. Jose Miguel Moncada in ELF is P8. Gerson Robia in ELF is 11, 0.4 behind Juan Barbosa. Jose Miguel Moncada is P8, 0.7 behind J.Enriquez. J.Enriquez was 1.4 faster last lap. Gerson Robia in La Caizat on lap 9 is 11th, 0.6 behind Juan Barbosa. Gerson Robia was 8.2 faster last lap. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is P3, 1.0 behind Christian Gomez. Gerson Robia in Repsol is P11 on Supers, 0.6 behind Juan Barbosa. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia is third, 0.9 behind Christian Gomez. Gerson Robia is 11th, 0.5 behind Juan Barbosa. Juan Carlos Guerin in Repsol on lap 11 is 6th, 1.0 behind Diego Ortiz. Gerson Robia in Renault on lap 11 is 11th, 0.4 behind Juan Barbosa. Juan Carlos Guerin in La Caizat is 6th, 0.4 behind Diego Ortiz. Gerson Robia in Bank Sabadell is 11th, 0.7 behind Juan Barbosa. Juan Carlos Guerin in Alp is P6, 0.5 behind Diego Ortiz. Juan Carlos Guerin passed Diego Ortiz for 5th. The leader has just finished the race. Jean-Pierre Perrin finished P1. Christian Gomez finished P2. Juan Pablo Aristizabal finished P3. Santiago Idarraga finished 14. Esteban Gomez finished P4. Juan Carlos Guerin finished 5th. Diego Ortiz finished P6. J.Enriquez finished P7. Jose Miguel Moncada finished P8. Ricardo Pineda finished 9th. Camilo Gomez finished P13. Juan Barbosa finished P10. Gerson Robia finished P11. Santiago Bedoya is P12. Santiago Bedoya finished P12. The race session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. Gerson Robia from Colombia is 4th on supers. Santiago Idarraga from Spain is 1st on softs. Camilo Gomez from Colombia is P2 on softs. Santiago Bedoya from Colombia is P3 on softs. Gerson Robia is 4th. Juan Barbosa is 5th on mediums. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia is P6 on supers. Jose Miguel Moncada from Colombia is 7th on softs. J.Enriquez from Colombia is 8th on mediums. Diego Ortiz from Colombia is 9th on mediums. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia is 10th on mediums. Esteban Gomez from Colombia is 11th on softs. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia is 12th on mediums. Christian Gomez from Colombia is 13th on supers. Jean-Pierre Ferrand from Colombia is P14 on mediums. Santiago Idarraga is first. Race start. Jose Miguel Moncada is 6th. Ricardo Pineda in Renault is 8th. Camilo Gomez is 3rd. Camilo Gomez is now 9th. Camilo Gomez is now P9. Santiago Bedoya is P10. The race session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. Santiago Idarraga from Spain is P1 on softs. Camilo Gomez from Colombia is 2nd on softs. Santiago Bedoya from Colombia is P3 on softs. Gerson Robia from Colombia is P4 on supers. Juan Barbosa is 5th on mediums. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia is 6th on supers. Jose Miguel Moncada from Colombia is P7 on softs. J.Enriquez from Colombia is 8th on mediums. Diego Ortiz from Colombia is P9 on mediums. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia is 10th on mediums. Esteban Gomez from Colombia is 11th on softs. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia is 12th on mediums. Christian Gomez from Colombia is 13th on supers. Jean-Pierre Ferrand from Colombia is P14 on mediums. Santiago Idarraga is P1. Ricardo Pineda is P5. Gerson Robia in Renault is P6. Santiago Idarraga in Repsol is 7th. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is 8th. Santiago Idarraga is 9th. Santiago Idarraga lost 10th to Esteban Gomez. Juan Carlos Guerin in Bank Sabadell is P5. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is P6. Jean-Pierre Ferrand passed Gerson Robia for 5th. Christian Gomez entering the pits is P12. Juan Pablo Aristizabal entering the pits is 8th. Esteban Gomez entering the pits is P8. The race session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. Santiago Idarraga from Spain is P1 on softs. Camilo Gomez from Colombia is 2nd on softs. Santiago Bedoya from Colombia is P3 on softs. Gerson Robia from Colombia is 4th on supers. Juan Barbosa is P5 on mediums. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia is 6th on supers. Jose Miguel Moncada from Colombia is 7th on softs. J.Enriquez from Colombia is 8th on mediums. Diego Ortiz from Colombia is P9 on mediums. Juan Carlos Guerin from Colombia is 10th on mediums. Esteban Gomez from Colombia is 11th on softs. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia is P12 on mediums. Christian Gomez from Colombia is 13th on supers. Jean-Pierre Ferrand from Colombia is P14 on mediums. Santiago Idarraga is P1. Juan Pablo Aristizabal entering the pits is P10. J.Enriquez in ELF is P2. The race session is at Circuit de Barcelona in Monteló, Spain. Santiago Idarraga from Spain is 1st on softs. Camilo Gomez from Colombia is second on softs. Santiago Bedoya from Colombia is third on softs. Gerson Robia from Colombia is P4 on supers. Juan Barbosa is P5 on mediums. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia is P6 on supers. Jose Miguel Moncada from Colombia is P7 on softs. J.. Enriquez from Colombia is P8 on mediums. Diego Ortiz from Colombia is P9 on mediums. Juan Carlos Guarin from Colombia is P10 on mediums. Esteban Gomez from Colombia is 11th on softs. Juan Pablo Aristizabal from Colombia is P12 on mediums. Christian Gomez from Colombia is P13 on supers. Jean-Pierre Ferrand from Colombia is 14th on mediums. Santiago Idarraga is P1. Race start. Gerson Robia is P4. Santiago Idarraga in Renault is P4. Ricardo Pineda in Repsol is P5. Santiago Bedoya is 6th. Santiago Bedoya lost 10th to Juan Barbosa. Gerson Robia is 2nd. Christian Gomez is 7th. Juan Carlos Guarin in New Holland is P4. Juan Carlos Guarin passed Santiago Idarraga for 3rd. Santiago Idarraga is 4th, battling Juan Carlos Guarin. Ricardo Pineda in Renault is P5. Best lap is a 1:52.668. 2.481 off the fastest lap. Christian Gomez in Repsol is 6th, 0.4 behind Ricardo Pineda. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is P7, 0.3 behind Ricardo Pineda. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is P9, 0.1 behind J.Enriquez Enriquez. Jean-Pierre Ferrand passed J.Enriquez Enriquez for P8. J.Enriquez Enriquez from Colombia in Bank Sabadell is 9, 0.1 behind Jean-Pierre Ferrand. J.Enriquez Enriquez passed Jean-Pierre Ferrand for P8. J.Enriquez Enriquez is now 7th. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in New Holland is P8, 0.2 behind J.Enriquez Enriquez. J.Enriquez Enriquez is 7th, 0.1 ahead of Jean-Pierre Ferrand. J.Enriquez Enriquez is now 8th. Jose Miguel Moncada in Elf is 10, 0.1 behind J.Enriquez Enriquez. J.Enriquez Enriquez was 0.6 faster last lap. Jose Miguel Moncada passed J.Enriquez Enriquez for P9. J.Enriquez Enriquez in Repsol is 10th on mediums, 0.2 ahead of Santiago Idarraga. Esteban Gomez entering the pits is P14. J.Enriquez Enriquez lost P10 to Santiago Idarraga. Christian Gomez in Campset is 3rd, 0.4 behind Juan Carlos Guerin. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in La Caizat is P6 on mediums, 0.4 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Barbosa in Eurocar is P7, 0.5 behind Jean-Pierre Ferrand. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is 5th, 0.2 behind Camilo Gomez. Juan Pablo Aristizabal passed Camilo Gomez for P4. Camilo Gomez in Elf is P5, 0.2 ahead of Jean-Pierre Ferrand. Juan Barbosa is 7th, 0.4 behind Camilo Gomez. Juan Barbosa passed Camilo Gomez for P6. J.Enriquez Enriquez in Repsol is P9, 0.3 behind Ricardo Pineda. Santiago Bedoya is 12th on softs, 0.5 behind Diego Ortiz. Santiago Bedoya was 7.0 faster last lap. Santiago Bedoya passed Diego Ortiz for P11. Ricardo Pineda on lap 4 is P9, 0.1 behind J.Enriquez Enriquez. Juan Pablo Aristizabal in New Holland is P4, 0.4 behind Juan Carlos Guerin. Juan Pablo Aristizabal passed Juan Carlos Guerin for P3. Juan Carlos Guerin is 4th, 0.1 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Carlos Guerin lost P4 to Jean-Pierre Ferrand. Jose Miguel Moncada in Elf is P10, 0.4 behind Ricardo Pineda. Santiago Idarraga entering the pits is P12. Ricardo Pineda from Colombia in Seat is 9th, 0.4 ahead of Jose Miguel Moncada. Diego Ortiz entering the pits is 13th. Jose Miguel Moncada from Colombia is P10, 0.2 behind Ricardo Pineda. Juan Carlos Guerin in La Caizat is 9th, 0.3 ahead of Jose Miguel Moncada. Juan Carlos Guerin is now P8. Ricardo Pineda in Eurocar is 10th, 0.4 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Santiago Idarraga exiting pits on softs. Diego Ortiz exiting pits on supers. J.Enriquez in Alp on lap 6 is P7, 0.5 behind Camilo Gomez. Ricardo Pineda in Renault is 10th, 0.4 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Camilo Gomez in Seat is 7th, 0.5 behind J.Enriquez. J.Enriquez was 1.6 faster last lap. Jose Miguel Moncada is P9 on softs, 0.2 behind Juan Carlos Guerin. Juan Carlos Guerin in La Caizat is P9, 0.1 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Juan Carlos Guerin lost P9 to Ricardo Pineda. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in Renault is P4, 0.7 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Carlos Guerin entering the pits is P10. Juan Carlos Guerin is P10. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in Seat is 4th, 0.9 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Ricardo Pineda in Repsol is P9, 0.4 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Jose Miguel Moncada was 0.5 faster last lap. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in Eurocar is 4th on mediums, 0.9 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Santiago Idarraga entering the pits is 13th. Santiago Bedoya from Colombia in La Caizat is 10th. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is 4th, 1.0 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Ricardo Pineda is 9th on Supers, 1.3 behind Jose Miguel Moncada. Juan Carlos Guerin exiting pits on Supers. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is 4th, 0.9 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is P3, 0.7 behind Gerson Robia. Jean-Pierre Ferrand is 4th, 0.9 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Juan Pablo Aristizabal is P3, 0.4 behind Gerson Robia. Gerson Robia is 3rd, 0.4 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in Elf is 4th, 0.5 behind Gerson Robia. Jean-Pierre Ferrand was 1.4 faster last lap. Gerson Robia on lap 10 is P3, 0.2 ahead of Jean-Pierre Ferrand. Gerson Robia lost 3rd to Jean-Pierre Ferrand. Jean-Pierre Ferrand from Colombia is 3rd, 0.7 ahead of Gerson Robia. Gerson Robia is 4th, 1.2 behind Jean-Pierre Ferrand. Jean-Pierre Ferrand in Repsol is 3rd, 1.2 ahead of Gerson Robia. Jose Miguel Moncada in Repsol is P8, 1.0 behind Camilo Gomez. Jean-Pierre Perrin in New Holland is third on mediums, 1.0 behind Juan Pablo Aristizabal. Jose Miguel Moncada in La Caiza is P8, 0.5 behind Camilo Gomez. Camilo Gomez in New Holland is 7th. Camilo Gomez lost 7th to Jose Miguel Moncada. Jose Miguel Moncada is P8, 0.1 behind Camilo Gomez. The leader has just finished the race. Christian Gomez finished first. Juan Pablo Aristizabal finished P2. Jean-Pierre Perrin finished P3. Gerson Robia finished P4. Gerson Robia finished P4. Juan Barbosa finished 5th. J.Enriquez finished 6th. Camilo Gomez finished 7th. Jose Miguel Moncada finished 8th. Ricardo Pineda finished 9th. Diego Ortiz finished 11th. Santiago Bedoya finished 10th.